Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome everyone.
Let's see, like the morning after we recorded last week, another document comes out of the Vatican. I understand this affects you personally. Well, your son anyway.
Possibly. And we'll talk about that and how it does and how it might not if you understand it from a purely textual analysis. How might not need to, let's put it that way.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. I mean, what this is supposed to be is some clarifications on the Traditionalists. What was it? Custodes. And the document answers questions that we don't know who asked the questions. I have a feeling no one asked them. I have a feeling,
yeah.
This is just him.
Was...
Let me see if I can tighten the screws a little bit, because apparently I wasn't legal enough in the first
people
document.
Aren't paying enough attention, and they're exploiting my what I've permitted to its fullest extent.
My ambiguity. Here's the thing: when the Motu Proprio first came out, the very first thing I said is, okay, everybody's talking about this, but I'm not a legal. I don't have a legal mind, let alone any kind of legal training or understanding of the canons. And it was published in Italian, wasn't it?
Italian.
Like it wasn't even in Latin. Yeah. I was hoping someone like Timothy Gordon would pick it apart, not so much about what it, how good it is or how bad it is, but legally, how can priests and bishops get around this? You know?
Right.
What kind of loopholes are in this thing? And I guess even now there are still some loopholes, but this document they sent out was supposed to clear up some of the loopholes by, quote, answering questions. But
right. Some of them.
I don't know.
Which nobody knows who asked the questions.
Yeah. And I don't know how much legal weight this document has. You know?
In theory, it has the same legal weight, I think, as the original Motu Proprio.
Okay.
Because it's a papal supported answer to in theory questions, purported questions, ostensible questions, about the application of the Motu Proprio itself.
Okay. Before
have
we
you
climb
read it, by the way?
I have not read it. I've just heard a couple other podcasts about it.
Okay, it's not too long. We can even go through it. It's got a number of questions. I didn't count how many. Yeah. And then an answer. In every case, the question is a yes/no question, and then the answer is given either negative or affirmative, yes or no or yes. And then there's an explanatory note in some of the cases to either expand on the answer or to provide a basis or a kind of grounds for the answer.
What was the name of this document?
So, this document is Responsa Ad Dubia, response to questions on certain provisions of the apostolic letter Traditionis Custodes, issued Motu Proprio by the Supreme Pontiff Francis.
Okay. All right. Before we do this, you got me. We did a podcast last week on evolution.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You were talking about theological understandings of evolution and, I guess, theological possibilities. And you've got my mind on that, like, for the rest of the week I've been thinking about that. And this is what I came up with, and I have no reason to believe that any of this is true, but it would make a good story.
Okay.
In Genesis, we have God saying, the Lord saw that the wickedness of humankind was great in the earth, and every indication of the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continually. Now, actually,
Right.
I guess I should go back a little bit, because he's saying, when people began to multiply and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that they were fair, and they took wives for themselves of all that they chose. And then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in mortals forever, for they are flesh, their days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans who bore children to them. These were the hearers that were of old, warriors renowned. Indicating possibly, and I think we may have talked about it once or twice, that there was some kind of weird combination of flesh and spirit, like
angels were taking some kind of flesh form or something like that.
Right. There was something that was corrupting
That's
the very DNA, maybe, of man.
right. That's kind of like that's some of the speculation around that. It's a strange passage, to be sure.
And then down below that, he talks about, he's like, everything's evil, and it grieves his heart, and he says, I will blot out the earth and the human beings I have created, people together with animals and creeping things and birds of air, for I am sorry I have made them. And he also says, and God saw that the earth was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth. So, here's my just thoughts on that. What if the angels or demons and man were mating to create something weird? And these people had unusual powers that we wouldn't have because they had more understanding than we would have. And they knew how to corrupt the flesh.
Okay.
And from that, we got dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah. Things
And-
that weren't originally meant to be part of man's experience.
Right. Maybe even things that were created from the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
God's looking at this and like, this is crazy. We're going to start over. And so he picks out a man and some animals and says, this is what I'm going to save. Everything else is gone. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a thought.
It's a good story.
Yeah,
too.
it would be a good story. Okay. Anyway, because I've been thinking about that ever since we talked about it. It
Yeah.
won't leave my mind, so I had to say it somewhere.
Well, maybe now you can think about something else.
Yeah, we'll think about this crazy document from Francis,
The
who,
latest from Pope Francis.
for the first time in his pontificate, I think, clarifies something. Everything
okay.
else he just ignores. And we ask him questions like, what do you mean when you say this? And he just ignores it. And he won't talk about it. But here, when he's coming down and, putting his boot on our necks, then he's going to, I'm going to clarify. So, I don't, it's just pretty mean, if you ask me. And
It is. It is pretty
getting
mean.
him closer to what he wants to do, which is eliminate the TLM and, as we've been saying from the start, he does have the authority. But let's go over some of these questions. Where are we? Question 1, they are asking, can the diocesan bishop ask the congregation for divine worship and the discipline of the sacraments for a dispensation?
From the Motu Proprio itself.
Okay. So
so this is there's a broader context of this question. When it's not possible, so you have to understand the Motu Proprio itself originally said in every diocese where there's a group that celebrates the traditional mass, the bishop has to identify, assign, and designate a place where they can celebrate that Mass. And it can't be a regular parish church.
Okay.
So what they're asking here is, when it's not possible to find a church, oratory, or chapel which is available to accommodate the faithful who celebrate using the 1962 Missal, can the bishop ask the Congregation for Divine Worship and the Discipline of the Sacraments, which is a Vatican dicastery, for a dispensation from the provision, Article 3, Paragraph 2, which says that it can't be a regular parish, and thus allow a separate celebration in the parish church.
Mm-hmm. So
they say, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
but
you can ask. Weird. I mean, that's like, can I ask for a raise? Sure, go ahead and ask for a raise.
Sure, you can ask.
No, you can't have a raise.
But it indicates that they would grant such permission. But it says the congregation of the divine worship and discipline of the sacraments, exercising the authority in matters within its competence, can grant at the request of the bishop that the parish church is used. Such a celebration should not be included in the parish mass schedule. Get the Vatican.
Yeah, I remember. Okay.
The Vatican
That's insane.
Is micromanaging what a priest can put in his parish mass schedule through the bishop.
You're not allowed to tell people that you have the Tridentine Mass there. You
and
can't
it says,
advertise it.
Since it is attended only by the faithful who are members of the said group. That's one of the things. It's kind
stupid.
of a pernicious aspect of the Motu Proprio itself, is this idea that everybody who attends this Mass is a member of some distinct particular group.
Yeah. And I don't know anyone who are
aren't.
members of these groups. I mean,
yeah,
I'm a Catholic.
I just like to go to this Mass. Right.
I'm Catholic. That's the group I belong to. I'm Catholic.
Finally, it should not be held at the same time as the pastoral activities of the parish community. And it's to be understood that when another menu becomes available, this permission is to be withdrawn. This makes it, I mean, if anybody had any doubt before, this makes it clear that the purpose of the Motu Proprio is to segregate, set apart, and
isolate,
wall off the traditional Mass goers with a view to eventually just choking it out altogether. That is the clear intention. And it shows up here.
It's so, it's just so mean. Well, you guys, I can't say anything else about it. It's mean.
And it says there's no intention to marginalize the faithful who are rooted in the previous form, but we are reminding them that this is not an opportunity to promote the previous rite. So you're not allowed to use this as an opportunity to promote the traditional Mass.
What the heck are they scared of? What are they scared
weird.
of? Why do they have to do this? If the new rite is that great, why are they so scared of it? Of us?
Yeah, I mean, you go to parish hopping from city to city to city in the United States, and I don't know what percent. I was listening to another podcast, and somebody gave like 1% of the Catholic population attend the traditional Mass. That would shock me if it's that high. I don't even think it's that. I mean, okay, yeah, it's growing, but why does it merit all this attention? It's so tiny. Yeah. And what is the fear of... The thing is, it's so tiny that it seems like silly and petty and ridiculous for anybody to talk about this as some kind of force for disunity within the church.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a tiny group.
On the one hand, we could say it's getting the attention because it is growing and because it's churning out more priests than everything else.
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, there's also I think it tells us the kind of force we're against here. I don't want. Because, I'm sorry. The Tridentine Mass is better than the Novus Ordo. It just is.
Yeah,
and I think
it's objectively
Satan
better.
knows this, and so it's like I'm going to stamp out every bit of it. I don't want anything.
Stamping out the traditional Mass is there's no doubt that this is a diabolical thing. But here's the thing that it's really awkward for good Catholics, solid Catholics like us, because here's the thing. It would be incorrect to think that the problem with this motu proprio is that people ought to just be allowed to have whatever Mass they want. You know what I mean?
It's not a question of freedom.
There may be a lot of people who are sympathetic to our situation now, seeing it as like you put it, a boot on our necks, and they're seeing it as, denying us a freedom. But that's the wrong way to view it too.
Right.
So it's really it's a diabolical thing. It's an attempt by Satan, I think, to stamp out a Mass that is truly good and superior, and the more it grows, the more it will benefit and bless the Church.
Yeah. This next question, this is the one that keeps confusing me. I don't understand
provide
it.
some answers here.
Okay.
So the question is it possible, according to the provisions of the Motu Proprio Traditionis Custodes, to celebrate the sacraments with the Rituale Romanum and the Pontificale Romanum, which predate the liturgical reform of the Second Vatican Council? They're saying, all right, under the Motu Proprio back in, when was it, July? Can, in those places where the bishop is allowing the older Mass, can they also use the older forms of the sacraments? The sacraments themselves...
Go ahead. But sacraments as in like marriage, confirmation, baptism,
holy orders. And here's the thing. So the holy orders would fall under the Pontificale Romanum, because those sacraments are reserved for the bishop. The sacraments that are performed by the priest, that not reserved for the bishop, are in the Rituale Romanum. So marriage and so forth.
Okay, that's what no one had explained to me. So Rituale Romanum is something a priest can do. Pontificale Romanum is something the bishop can do.
Got to be a bishop.
I see.
So the strict answer is negative. However, it has a qualification that the diocesan bishop is authorized to grant permission to use the Rituale Romanum, the older one, but not the Pontificale Romanum. And he can only grant this permission to those canonically erected personal parishes which, according to the provisions, celebrate using the old missal.
Okay. What sticks out to me here is that it says negative, and then it says the bishop is authorized to grant permission for this and not for this. But generally, the bishop is not asking to grant permission for that. He's asking to celebrate that. You know what I mean?
Right. So
there's a little bit of a wordplay there, I think.
Well, think the question should be thought of as applying.
I'm just looking for a
first and foremost to the priests.
Yeah.
So the bishop says, "Okay, we've got a group that celebrates the traditional Mass. This group has a place to do it. They can do it in this building. Okay, everything's good. Can that group use the old rites for other sacraments?" The answer is no. Under the Motu Proprio, they can't. But for those sacraments in the Rituale Romanum, the bishop can grant that group permission to use the older sacraments.
Okay.
But he can't grant permission to use the Pontificale Romanum, which would be weird because he would just be giving himself permission.
Yeah, that's my point. He doesn't grant permission to do that. He never grants permission to do that. He just does it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I guess so. I'm just, I don't know. If I were a kid being told, you can't give someone a cookie, I would be like, I didn't give someone a cookie. I just went and took a cookie and I ate it.
Yeah, that's not giving myself a cookie. But it is a weird wording. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one.
All right. To the proposed question. This is kind of weird. I want to ask you if are you reading this on the Vatican's website?
Yes. If it please, yeah.
Do you see the sudden change in? I mean, maybe it's just
suddenly it's in italics.
A typer.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's weird. It's probably just a typo in the construction of the website or something like that. Okay, if a priest who has been granted the use of the old missal does not recognize the validity and legitimacy of concelebration, and in particular, if he refuses to concelebrate at the Chrism Mass. The Chrism Mass is a special Mass where the bishop of a diocese concelebrates with one or more of the priests of that diocese. Mm-hmm. I don't know what other significance it has. I don't know if that's the Mass where they best bless the chrism oils or something like that, but it's a special Mass that involves the concelebration with the bishop. Mm-hmm. So if he does not recognize the validity and legitimacy, that it's valid and legal to concelebrate, can he continue to benefit from the concession, from the permission to use the old missal? The answer is no, he can't. Now, I am not sure, because I've known about concelebration for a while, and to me, concelebration is weird conceptually because the priest at Mass, the priest who's saying the Mass, is an alter Christus. He's another Christ. He is speaking and acting in the person of Christ. So for multiple priests to do that at the same time within the same act, it's just plain weird. Yeah. Maybe there's some manner in which it's valid. I can't speak to that. And if it is valid, then if the church makes it legal, that it's obviously legitimate. That doesn't make it non-weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make it
conceptually
not weird. Goofy. It's stupid. It's
so.
I guess so. There are priests apparently who refuse to concelebrate. If I don't know, if I were a priest, of course I'm not a priest, so maybe they know a lot. Well, they certainly know a lot more than I do. I would be like, okay, whatever, I'll concelebrate, and I would stand there, and I don't think I would even say the prayers, but there, I've concelebrated.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like I don't know whether concelebration, like whether they have like certain prayers that all the priests say together, or is it just the fact that they're there and at certain times extend their hands, or I don't even know really what concelebration is, but knowing what the Mass is, I know that concelebration is a goofy concept. That
there's no real room for it.
It doesn't mesh well with the theology of the Mass.
What he could do is say, I'll concelebrate through Zoom. And so,
it might be just as legitimate.
Since the online Masses are every bit as good as the in-person Masses, I'll just do it from here. And that'll take care of my... I don't know. I really hope bishops ignore this. Because that puts it on the bishop to find out what the priest's feelings are on that, which he could just say, well, he didn't tell me that he doesn't believe in concelebration, so I didn't know.
He just doesn't do it. And I don't push. That's if the bishop doesn't ask him, he can't refuse, and so bishops ought to just not bother asking the priests to do it.
Yeah,
it's a goofy thing anyway. A bishop shouldn't want to do it anyway.
Yeah, I would be embarrassed by it if I were a bishop. I'd be like, all right, come on. We all got to do this, the Pope said. Just put your hand up and say the words, all right? You're got to intend to do what the church does.
We won't have a congregation. We'll just all do it and get out of here.
We'll tell them it's a COVID mass.
That's right.
It's a secret.
Okay. Now here's what's fun. The language that you see coming out of this papal administration, I guess, it's just so stupid. Did you ever see the movie Red with Bruce Willis and
Red?
John R.E.D. Bruce Willis, John Malkovich.
Red. No, I haven't.
What's her name? I can't think of her name. It's short for Retired Extremely Dangerous. It's about a bunch of old, CIA guys who are retired and then targeted for elimination. It's got who's the black guy too?
Just tell me what the movie's about.
Anyway, point is, it doesn't even matter what the movie's about. The point is, there's a movie Red 2, and in the movie Red 2, Bruce Willis is in the and he's basically in love with the girl, but John Malkovich is trying to tell him it's kind of funny because John Malkovich's character is like really messed up psychologically and stuff, but he's trying to tell him that you need to make the run to safety, and he's using it as a metaphor. He explains that like when you're pinned down and the bullets are flying, but you have to make the run through the bullets to get to safety. You have to make the run to emotional safety. And, he's using this metaphor. And it's just funny. But here's the thing. So, like, this paragraph in this answer to the Cancellations question. Yeah. So the answer is negative, and then it says, however, before revoking the concession to use the old missal, the bishop should take care to establish a fraternal dialogue with the priest to ascertain that this attitude does not exclude the validity and legitimacy of the liturgical reform, the teaching of the Second Vatican Council, and the magisterium of the Supreme Pontiffs, and to accompany him towards an understanding of the value of concelebration, particularly at the Chrism Mass.
I wonder if anyone knows the value of concelebration. I'd like someone to explain it to me. Yeah,
what does it mean to accompany someone towards an understanding? I'm going to accompany you towards an understanding of how cars work.
Yeah. It's the way he says things is just retarded.
And it's like, it would be, it's like satire, except he believes it.
Yeah. Yeah, this should be an SNL or a Monty Python skit.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. That's where it belongs.
This is our church.
Yep.
For now. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. And, this one's in italic too.
Yeah.
And it has 2 question marks at the end too. Well, what is the deal with that?
It's emphasis. It's like 2 exclamation points. Like, I really exclaim this. I
really ask this. I'm dying to know. Okay, in Eucharistic celebrations using the Old Missal, is it possible to use the full text of the Bible for the readings, choosing the pericopes indicated in the Missal? I don't know what that means. I'm going to look up that word first of all.
Periscopes.
Pericopes, not periscopes.
Oh, I was going to say.
It's an extract, especially a passage from the Bible. Okay, so is it possible to use the full text of the Bible, choosing the extracts indicated in the Missal? I don't even know what that means.
Choosing
Isn't that what we do?
Extracts use
indicated
the
in
full
missal.
text, choosing the extracts.
Choosing the extracts indicated in the missal.
That makes no sense.
What does that
whatever.
mean? Since the text of the readings are contained in the missal itself, and therefore no separate lectionary, and in order to observe the provisions, one must necessarily resort to the translations approved by the individual conferences.
Why would no priest celebrating the Tridentine Mass would use anything other than what's in the missal?
Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so the missal itself has the Latin. But the Motu Proprio says that you also have to read the vernacular. You know how after the readings, the priest...
Okay.
Which is really annoying for those weekday masses when you want it to be quick and short, and now the priest is forced to go and read it in English again or whatever.
Yeah, he's trying to get
so
people
they're saying...
during their lunch hour.
But for the vernacular readings, you've got to use a translation of the Bible approved by your local bishop.
Which isn't necessarily in the missal that they have.
Right. So you read the Latin because that's what's in the missal, and then they're saying, okay, can we go and read within the vernacular part the specific selections that are represented in the Latin? I think that's what they're asking. And the answer is yes, that's what you would do. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. But it does give in the explanatory note, this is interesting, no vernacular lectionaries may be published that reproduce the cycle of readings of the previous rite. So nobody's allowed to publish a lectionary that has, like, the English readings of the Mass, except they're the readings from the traditional Mass.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute.
Because there's no lectionary with the old Mass. Because the readings are in the Missal itself, right?
Okay.
So what the priest has to do is he has to go to the reading, do it, but then he has to prepare for Mass, go get a Bible that's an approved translation, find that same passage in English,
and they're saying,
it or write it down or something like that to be able to read it afterwards.
I can't pre-prepare all that text and publish it in a book?
That's what they're saying.
Oh, guess what I'm going to do?
You have to do it each one. Let's put it online.
Yeah, I'll put it. No,
we won't
I'll
call
do
it
more
a
than
lectionary.
that.
It's not a lectionary. It's just an
collection
aid,
of readings,
a preparation aid.
You know what?
Call it a traditional Mass preparation aid.
I'll do more than that. You'll be able to buy it.
That's right.
Printed. Yeah, it'll be easy. We don't have to worry about copyrights because, we can use Douay Rheims or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just something that's... I wonder if the Douay Rheims is considered, because it has to be approved for liturgical use by the Conference of Catholic Bishops, and they are in the pockets of the publishers and the copyright holders.
Yeah, but...
That's why everything we do
at Mass
today is copyrighted.
So what is the priest going to do? Can the priest read out of the Douay Rheims?
That's what... I think he has to use something stupid like the New American Bible or something like that. I think the original Motu Proprio specifies that.
Okay, we should find out, because it would really be... it would take a lot of busy work, but you're looking at maybe a 3-month project, and we can have a printed or downloadable version of it that we could sell for pretty cheap, like less than $10. And we could make it available to everyone on Amazon, and anyone could get it.
Okay, so in the Motu Proprio, I'm reading, it says the bishops of these dioceses, where there's groups that celebrate the Old Mass, are to establish that in these celebrations, the readings are proclaimed in the vernacular language, using translations of the sacred scripture approved for liturgical use by the respective conferences. So it has to be approved for Mass by the USCCB.
So were those... are there any...
Which I think the only one right now is the New American Bible.
Okay, but at one time, has it been that way since 1970?
No, it's that way in the Motu Proprio. It's that way as of July 2021.
No. What I mean is the approved vernaculars, has it always been the same book?
Oh, I think, yes, I think the New American Bible was the approved version for liturgical use when the English Mass was first rolled out in the United States.
That alone makes the English Mass suck.
Stupid, I know, because it's
such a bad translation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess technically it wouldn't make any difference to have this because they couldn't use it other than us actually stealing the copyrighted content and
putting it together. Yeah.
Yeah, then we
like I said, the bishops are in the pockets of the publishers anyway, which is why everything we read at Mass is copyrighted today.
Yeah.
And that's why, we do have our old standby traditional hymns, but the music too. Look at how much of it is copyrighted.
It's terrible.
If you're writing something to glorify God, you're not going to slap a copyright on it. You're going to say, "Hey, everybody, take it, copy it, sing it, use it."
Well, that's not what that Bible's for.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, it's kind of a weird way of wording it, but that's what they're going for. Is we want to sell more. Even among you traditional mass goers, we want to sell
still
more.
Got to
our
buy our
copyrighted.
crap. Yeah.
We want to line the pockets of our publishers.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next question: does the diocesan bishop have to be authorized by the Apostolic See to allow priests ordained after the publication of the Motu Proprio to celebrate with the old missal? The answer is affirmative. This is just stated directly in the Apostolic letter. That was in the original. I wonder why that question is even here.
Like, it's like saying, do you really mean it?
I guess so. Priests ordained after the publication of the present Motu Proprio who wish to celebrate with the old missal should submit a formal request to the bishop, who shall consult the Apostolic See before granting this authorization.
I don't know.
That's weird. That they would.
It's a weird thing to put in there at all.
Okay.
I think again, I think we've talked about this. Some of this junk is just typed up by some idiot working in an office. It's like, we need words to say. Can you add text to this?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to make this look substantial. Let's add text and use words like accompany on the understanding instead of just explain to, and it's like just bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. This is the kind of things that come out of bureaucracies.
Yeah,
it's just
it is
stupid.
And this weird micromanagement, like what you can put in your parish bulletin.
My gosh!
I mean, the fact that Rome is micromanaging parish bulletins regarding this. This shows you how there is really something bad going on within the church regarding the traditional mass.
Again, I don't understand anyone who hasn't been red-pilled on this stuff. And I've gotten to a point where I don't even know how to explain red-pilled, because some people will be like, well, yeah, I'm not denying what you're saying. There's some bad people in the church. But no, it's not just bad people.
It's a diabolical force at work. That's the thing. The bad people are only bad because they're allowing themselves to be moved and manipulated by a deeper diabolical force. This is satanic, not just bad people doing stupid stuff, not just human selfishness.
And there are people at the top who are in total cooperation with it.
Yeah.
This is really bad. We want to stamp out any kind of reverence paid to Jesus Christ and the Eucharist. Mm-hmm. No more Eucharist, no more reverence, no more on the tongue. It's terrible. Last question.
All right, it's not the last question though. There's a bunch of questions.
There's a I see. There's a bunch of quick
explanations. Ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Can the faculty to celebrate using the old missal be granted ad tempus? That ad tempus just means for a time. And the answer is yes. So the bishop can say, yes, I grant you this faculty, but it only lasts for the next 6 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I mean, as the bishop, yes, of course he has the power to do that. That's
I wouldn't even think that's a question.
What?
Who asked that?
That's like, in fact, I saw a podcast that my future daughter-in-law sent me where a lawyer, I think he skews SSPX, but he's looking at it. It was like, who the heck would ask this question? Nobody asked this question, and I think he's right about that.
When you go to a company meeting and it's like, okay, we've got the gist of everything that we're supposed to know out of this meeting, but there's always that jackass who raises his hands and has to ask a stupid question that is only taking up time. It's like, okay, what you just asked is right there in your memo. Just look at it. You don't need to ask this, and you don't need to make us late for lunch.
That's right.
Okay.
This is another one of those stupid questions.
Yeah.
Does the faculty granted by the bishop to celebrate with the old missal only apply in the territory of his own diocese? Well, that's always been the way it is. So bishops grant any faculty granted by a bishop only applies in his own diocese. And so, for example, a priest needs, let's say a priest is traveling to another diocese, he has to receive faculties from that diocese's bishop before he can, for example, hear confessions.
Yeah. That's always been a thing.
All right. If the authorized priest is absent or can't attend, must the person replacing him also have formal authorization? They say yes.
That's always been true.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, if you have to have authorization to do it, you have to have authorization to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've gotten back and we've stopped doing italics for the questions.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Do deacons and instituted ministers participating in celebrations using the old missal have to be authorized by the diocesan bishop? I think this includes servers.
Really? That's what I was about to ask. I mean,
because unlike the modern mass, where any old person could just get up and serve, all they're doing is, carrying a few things here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
The role of the server in the old missal is a institution. It's much more formalized. For one thing, they have an actual liturgically specified set of actions that they have to perform. And to be a server in the old rite, you were supposed to have been received the minor order of acolyte. Mm-hmm. I don't know that at these various places where they do the old mass, whether the servers do where they have received the minor order or not.
Yeah,
but
I know
that's how I know
that they go through some serious training. No one can just get up and do it.
Yeah.
It's not like.
So I think this technically applies to servers, and I kind of think it's meant to make it harder by making it apply to servers.
Yeah. Okay.
This is one of those. It's like, I don't think anybody. This is one of those questions that makes you think. Okay, nobody asked this. The Holy See is Pope
They're
Francis.
Just putting on
just
a few
trying
more
to make it more
regulations.
Burdensome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Affirmative. Did you catch that? Affirmative.
Affirmative. Gosh.
They
were in such a rush to get this out before Christmas.
Yeah. They misspelled affirmative with an E instead of an I.
So stupid. Yeah. Affirmative. I didn't even see that. Okay. Okay, now we're back to italics.
Yeah.
Can a priest who is authorized to celebrate with the old missal and who, because of his office, like parish priest or chaplain, also celebrates on weekdays with the... It says the Missale Romanum of the Reform of the Second Vatican Council. Hey, guys...
I don't even know what the hell that means.
It doesn't exist. We don't have a missal according to the reforms of the Second Vatican Council. We have the new Mass, which is not of the Second Vatican Council. Okay, so, and I think, let's assume that's what they mean. So a priest who celebrates on weekdays with the new Mass, can he binate using the old Mass? I'm not sure what they're asking. It says...
Binate?
I think binate means celebrate both versions of the Mass.
At the same time? Or...
Yeah, what does he mean? But what do they mean? I don't even know what they're meaning.
Oh, so, wait a minute. Is it true that you can only say one Mass per day? I think I heard someone talking about that. Oh,
maybe that's it. Yes, a priest is supposed to only be saying one Mass per day.
So he can't go also say the Latin one. He either says the English one or the Latin one.
Okay.
And since anyone... I don't know if this is the rule now. I know it was. It's like you couldn't have a parish, or at least it was in our diocese. You couldn't have a parish celebrating the Latin rite instead of the English rite. You could add the Latin rite, but you could. So in that case, you would have to have two priests if you wanted to do both.
Okay, because the regular priest, because he's the parish priest and he doesn't have an associate, he might have to say 2 or 3 masses on Sunday, but he can't take one of those masses and say, let's make it the old rite. He would have to either add an old rite mass and have another priest come in for that, or drop a mass and then he could add an old rite mass, but it would still have to be another priest.
And he can't drop the mass. That was some of the original rules. Remember, that's why all the Latin masses were like at 2 p.m. in some...
Yeah.
Always really either
that's
out
kind of weird. It's kind of like...
Or bad
because it's
neighborhoods.
Like he could drop a mass for other reasons. He could say, we don't have as much attendance. Let's drop the mass in order to consolidate and fill the
we'll just have a Eucharistic celebration or communion service is what they call them, where there's no mass, you just pass out communion and.
But if it's if the traditional mass
if you're going to try to
is
put
sniffing around,
Latin
then you
mass,
can't do
no
that.
way.
You can't drop a
no
mass
way.
then because you might be replacing it.
Okay, that's what this is. Just another limitations to make it harder to have a Latin mass
and more stupid, petty micromanagement too of stuff that bishops should completely just be able to make the decisions themselves. There shouldn't be a Roman decision on this.
Oh, you know what?
All right.
The next question reiterates what I just said. It looks like.
Okay, can a priest authorized to celebrate using the old missal celebrate on the same day with the same missal for another group?
Oh, no.
Who have received... Okay. Oh, can he celebrate the old missal for 2 different groups on the same day?
Which is what happens.
St. Monica's and celebrate their morning mass and then go down to Kentucky and celebrate an afternoon mass for a different group.
Okay.
No, he can't.
This is BS.
Well, actually, I don't even know if that applies because that's 2 different dioceses, but you get my point.
I mean, but that's a serious thing because as the Tridentine Mass grows, there are groups in various cities within the same diocese who it's either and they don't have enough priests, so one priest is often saying several masses, Latin masses for different groups. I know that's happening, or at least it was.
And
this is just
is specifically there to do away with that, to restrict and compress and wall off and segregate traditional mass goers.
He's got his knee on her neck and he's just squeezing a little bit harder.
So, I don't know if I brought this up in a previous podcast, but I mean, I know a lot of people think they look at the world at large.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay, go ahead. A lot of people look at the world at large and they think that there's no way that we can't be close to the end times. There's no way that God can't be just about ready to come in and show his kingly glory and take earth back for himself and wipe everything out and, do whatever. And then, of course, those of a more traditional conservative bent, a more Catholic bent within the Catholic Church, kind of follow along the same lines with the church itself. It's like, wait, this is the Church of Christ, and look how crazy it's gotten, where the Pope himself is putting his boot on the necks of people who love Jesus and want to show reverence and want to worship the Father through Jesus in the traditional Mass, while allowing every kind of stupidity and goofiness and irreverence in the new Mass. And so they see this as, this must be, it's got to be close to the time. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. And I just want to remind everybody that, we had a persecution at the beginning of Christianity from outside the church. Yeah. And now you could think of this as a new persecution. Okay, it's a persecution of the spirit, not a persecution of the body. They're not coming in. Okay, there's persecutions of Christians of the body happening in places like the Middle East, and we're being persecuted by the world, by convenience, by stupid rules, the mass lockdowns and that kind of stuff. But this persecution from within the church is a persecution of the spirit. We might be forced to go to stupid Novus Ordo masses in order to go to Mass. But keep in mind that God allowed the first persecution, the age of martyrs, where people were being dragged out and executed and tortured in all kinds of horrible ways physically for being Christian. God allowed that to go on for 300 years before changing it and bringing Christianity into dominance. If this is really a second persecution, but one from within the church, he will sustain us. But we should not imagine that just because we feel like, wow, something's got to give, that it's going to give within the next 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
God works in his own time. And, God hastens to bring about his plan. Well, 300 years was hastening to bring about the flourishing of Christianity within society and within culture after the Age of Martyrs in the early history of the church. We don't know how long this situation is going to... I almost, I kind of wonder, is this going to be like... You remember the... I'm trying to remember which king it was of the Israelites who discovered the old scrolls in the temple that contained the law. The law had been forgotten, and the king of the Hebrews discovered the scrolls and then reinstituted the law and found favor both with God and the Israelites because of it. Well, the old Mass could be something like that. History may be oriented in that trajectory. I don't know. We just have to trust God, and if God calls us to do things that are unpalatable, as long as they're not sinful, we may have to put up with them.
We might. I would say our chief duty is to find a way to make our kids love the tradition. Yeah. It's harder when you can't go to Mass. It's a lot harder. You try to explain to a kid or to a young man the beauty of the tradition of the church, and then he goes to Mass and he sees all this just
goofiness,
craziness, and it's like,
stupidness.
I'm sorry, I don't buy it. This is stupid. I'm not coming here.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess our that's going to be our battle, and I think we're looking for a miracle. We're looking for something big to solve all this, but the miracle might not be big. The miracle might just be us somehow sustaining the faith and keeping the faith.
Yeah. Well, and I watched a podcast the other day. I guess I can say who it was, right? It was Timothy Gordon.
Yeah.
And he had a really good point, I thought. He said, look, if this is what God's asking us to do, then, stop having the traditional Mass available to us. If that's what God's asking. He's asking it for a reason. And that reason is evangelization. If the Pope is going to say, you can't have your traditional Mass anymore, you have to go to these Novus Ordo parishes, well then we should go there and we should be loud. And we should complain about the abuses of the Mass. We should complain about all the ways that they're not doing it by the book. And we should complain about all the heterodoxy and all the goofy sermons. We should go to the priest and confront him and make ourselves an annoyance and a gadfly to everybody in these parishes who wants to turn it into some kind of performance or some kind of feel-good retreat or whatever. Basically make ourselves unwelcome. So that, they either begin to realize, wait a minute, these people are right. And actually, it's not going to be that they realize we're right. It's going to be that those who quietly already know that we're right become emboldened by our actions. Yeah. And then we take back. And we marginalize and push aside those who are destroying the church with either the goofiness of the teachings or the misdirectedness of the Mass or whatever.
Yeah, that would be the plan. We have to go evangelize the Catholics who have stopped being Catholic.
Yeah.
The church needs evangelization, and maybe it's going to come from the traditionalists.
This could be God's way of putting us there so that instead of going off by ourselves, we're forced to evangelize. Now, it becomes a lot harder because now we're not, if this isn't available, we're not raising our children in a regular situation of seeing true worship as it's supposed to be presented to the Father. Instead, they're seeing, artsy-fartsy concerts by choir, the bands that play at Mass and stuff like that.
Okay, so maybe we need to do a podcast about ways to do just that. Ways to bring young men into the faith or to make them appreciate the faith when the traditional Mass is not available. Like certain prayers that you could make a habit of saying that would show them the true nobility of the faith. Or you can go to the Mass and you could just say the prayers of the old rite quietly. Why couldn't you do that?
There's only a couple of prayers that have changed from the old rite. There's the Confiteor, confession, and then there's that goofy prayer that everybody says right after the consecration. Which is kind of stupid. I mean, it's the fact that not only do they interrupt the Eucharistic
proclaim
prayer,
the faith of
but they often do it with music. Which, other than that, you're not supposed to even have any instruments playing during the Eucharistic prayer. So it's really a goofy kind of thing. But those two things, as far as I know, are the only things that were retained from the old Mass, but changed their wordings in the Latin. All the other prayers in the Latin of the new Mass, are still the original formula. The Gloria, the Kyrie, which is Greek, not Latin, but that's the same. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi.
Well, sadly, I this is like one of the things that bugs me the most is
what's that?
The prayers at the foot of the altar were just
they're gone.
It's like they're gone. We're not going to say the
reciting Psalm 42 is gone.
I think
we don't do that anymore.
That was when I started going to the Latin Mass. And when I finally figured out how to read it, that was what impressed me the most.
Yeah. But you know what? You could read that before Mass.
Mm-hmm.
And
you could read it during Mass.
Yeah, you
don't
could read
have
it
to talk.
You don't have to sing
respond.
while they're doing their stupid procession, and while Father's doing his dumb greeting and chatting up.
You could just be reading the Missal.
You can be reading those. So you could read them. You could be reading that. You can say quietly those prayers which have not actually changed in Latin, and you would actually be saying the same Mass as everybody else. Mm-hmm. Plus, if you say it in Latin, you may as well use the old one for the Confiteor.
I don't say them in Latin anyway, but you can just.
Okay, yeah. If you knew the English,
we go to the low Mass anyway.
One. Yeah.
So nobody talks at all, and we all just read our Missal. So if I went to a Novus Ordo, I would just do that.
Yeah,
that's
just
what
read
I would
the Missal during Mass.
I would walk in with my little red book.
Yeah, that's right.
And a printed out readings,
just read it.
And they'd be like, "What's that?" "Oh, that's the real Missal. You guys got the fake one. That's the you guys got the copyrighted one."
Actually, that's right. You got your Mass is all bound up with copyrights and stuff.
I didn't pay my copyright fees,
God.
So I'm going to say the old one because I didn't.
Yours belongs to the state. Mine belongs to God.
Yeah. Okay, but things like that.
Yeah, you could do it.
It
Plus,
could
the other
impress
thing is
on your kids more.
The stupid parts of the Mass. Okay,
everybody's shaking hands. Everybody stop and shake hands.
Well, I'm thinking so first of all, the Gloria. Now, it's not enough that they have to have stupid music for the Gloria, but they make it a folk song with verses and a refrain. Did you ever notice that at the new Masses?
Yeah, some of them are doing it, yeah.
So, it's okay, when they start that, say your Gloria, and then spend the rest of the time praying a rosary until they're done.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do if I go to a Novus Ordo anyway.
When you get to the offertory, they don't really they don't do the offertory prayers, and instead they have the stupid offertory song.
Yeah.
And in fact, the song follows these. They call it the universal prayers. The one for this intention, let us pray to the Lord. Lord, hear our prayer. That kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh,
I say the rosary during that.
So much.
I don't even do that, especially during these stupid the seasons are not stupid, but they get stupid during these seasons like Advent and Lent, where they want to somehow. It's like they want to be different, and so they come up with this stupid cutesy stuff like they'll chant, "Let us pray to the Lord," and then everybody's supposed to chant, "Lord, hear our prayer," but they're supposed to overlay the Lord of "Let us pray to the Lord" with the Lord of "Lord, hear our prayer," so that everybody says the word Lord at the same time. Or
I've never heard that one.
You've never heard that? Yeah. So it sounds like, "Let us pray to the Lord, hear our prayer," like that. It's stupid. It is so stupid and infantile. And then there's this thing
that now
they
that they're
want to
getting
make
the political too.
Well, yeah,
the intention
the prayers
to
themselves
get more and more political.
They can be political. So I just say my rosary during that, and then after that, they have the offertory song where the band gets to perform again. I say my rosary during that. I don't bother. It's like, and the whole responsorial psalm between the first and second readings has become another performance,
gay
opportunity
thing
for the band.
Yeah,
I say my rosary during that.
I hate to say this, but
you know what?
This
I
same
get almost
stuff
a
goes
full
on
rosary
at the Tridentine.
during Mass. What's that?
I said, I'm sorry to say, this same kind of stuff happens at the Tridentine Mass.
Does it?
I know several masses where the choir has taken over the mass, and that mass ends up being 2.5 hours just because we got to sit around and listen to the choir. And
that is true.
Bugs
that can happen.
The daylights out me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather go to a Novus Ordo than hear. No, I guess not, because the music's better. But
yeah,
it's like, okay, we're gonna all sit down and listen for like. Sometimes some choirs will like slow down the tempo to where you're sitting there listening to the Gloria for like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I think
that's ridiculous.
I don't see any reason for that.
To
me, that's every bit as bad as the Novus Ordo.
That, I think I heard that St. Augustine, in one of his, letters or communications with somebody or something, was considering and debating and evaluating the question of whether or not singing should be allowed at the Mass. And this is, 400 years into Christianity, and they still had not introduced singing at Mass.
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate question.
I don't know if it's real, but I heard that was a thing.
I enjoy going to a Mass with no singing, and it's not because of time. It's because I can pray the Mass better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not interrupted by, okay, now I have to sit. I've already read the prayer, because I don't read it fast, but I read it. If you read something too slowly, your brain does not grasp the sentence. You know what I mean?
You lose it. Yeah. And reading something one word at a time doesn't process the meaning of the prayer.
Yeah. So I read at a pace that I can, understand and pray.
And mean the prayer.
When I'm done with the prayer, at a lot of high masses, I just have nothing to do other than say the rosary, or just start contemplating about, some kind of private prayer, that something heavy in my heart or something like that. Actually, here's the thing. It's gotten to the point when I go to a high mass, a Latin high mass, I go ahead and do the entire, up to the, consecration. I read all that, and then I spend the rest of that time either saying the rosary or, I don't follow along anymore.
Oh, and then when he gets to the consecration, you adore the Lord there, and then you can go back to the prayers. That's kind of your resync point. Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of people do it that way, that go to that Mass.
Because there's just... Mass. Otherwise, it's just me listening to the music, and a lot of times it's good music. But I'm there for Mass.
Yeah,
I'm not there to
get on
hear
with the
choir.
Mass. Exactly. There's a,
and I hate.
Sort of...
I'll just point this out. When our mother was the choir director, she had the perfect pace and tempo for these things.
Oh yeah,
so that
she kept it going,
and it was great musically. And I long for the days when our mother directed the choir at one of these high masses.
Yeah, there's an art to that.
She was good at it.
During a high mass, this is something that they lost completely in the Novus Ordo.
Yeah.
During the high mass, the choir can be singing parts that the priest can be going on with mass.
Yeah.
And there's an art to landing at the right place so that
we're not all sitting and waiting.
Yeah, the priest isn't waiting on the choir, and he's been able to go on with mass, and then he gets to the next part, and then maybe there's something else for the choir to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if the choir's taking too long, or singing the syllables too slow, because in some of those chants, they'll put like 27 notes on one syllable.
Yeah.
If they're doing that too slow, then it's like the priest himself reaches a point. It's like, well, I can't go on until they're done. Because he has to say something out loud for the, that the servers reply to, or something like that.
Like the glory, we gotta sit and wait, and at the Confiteor. But Mom was really good at it, and even the high mass. Most high masses only lasted about an hour 15 to an hour and a half at the most, except for the really big ones,
Yeah, the ones that are like for like Easter or something like that would be a little bit longer.
I I wish she were choir director again. Mm-hmm. Oh, well. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. It's not just because she's our mom. I know a lot of other people think that.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're at the end of the subject.
Yeah? Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we'll get into some news. So, okay, Russia demands that NATO end all military activity in Eastern Europe and not admit Ukraine as a member of the military alliance. And they're talking about a couple other things, but Biden is saying that the U.S. is gonna sit down and discuss with Russia these proposals. Poland and Lithuania join Ukraine in trying to beef up action against Russia. And the U.S. approves the sale of several, how do you say that, Javelin or Javelin anti-tank guided missiles.
Oh, yeah.
For Lithuania against Russia.
Okay.
So I guess the thing is this Russia, Ukraine, and now Lithuania this stuff is getting bigger. You know,
serious too.
It's getting pretty serious. Javelin. It's
and
Javelin,
so
not
far,
Javelin.
yeah. It's I would have said Javelin, but that's just because what I called the the track and field event.
When I'm reading it, I can't remember how to say it, but when I'm thinking of Call of Duty, I know it's Javelin.
Oh, okay. So they call it Javelin.
I have to think of it
Javelin.
in context of a weapon.
But it sounds like the current administration is so far continuing to support these countries against Russia.
Yeah. Let's hope that this isn't just all show.
Yeah.
Okay. Facebook exposes a group of spy firms that could affect the private security of over 50,000 people. Now, the thing is...
what?
Spy firms. In other words, firms that surveil people.
That do spying. Okay.
The parent company of Facebook, which is Meta Platforms Incorporated, has announced crackdowns on surveillance companies who spy on people in more than 100 countries. I don't know why. I just think there's something fishy about all this. I mean, how do you spy on someone who's publishing their every thought?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like
hey,
spying
look what
on
I had for
by,
dinner. It's like
I'm going to spy on somebody by reading their blog or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, is that really spying? Yeah. Does that count as spying?
You don't have to spy.
You know what I
announcing.
think it is? I think that this goes back to that big scandal when Facebook and some of the other social media guys, they kind of realized that they had valuable information that they could, present in terms of what people are looking for by what kinds of things they post and that kind of stuff that could help the Democrats, particularly in America anyway, win elections.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Appealing to the right things. And then the Republicans, or a couple of Republicans, used the same tactic, and they were all up in arms about it.
Yeah, I think that's probably what this is.
I think that's what this is. I think this is saying, wait a minute, we need to make sure that the only political side that benefits from being able to harvest people's, the data that people choose to reveal anyway, are the leftists, or at least whatever political side we approve of. I think that's all. That's all that's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Brazil, Denmark, Latvia, Poland, Slovakia, and the United Kingdom and the U.S. issue a joint condemnation of the worldwide persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Is there a worldwide persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses?
This is silly.
I don't think
this is, and this was in Washington Times. The statement did not single out any country for criticism other than Russia, which Russia had labeled Jehovah's Witnesses as an extremist organization. But I think this is Jehovah's Witnesses trying to get people to think that everybody's putting them to death for not using for like not standing for the anthem and things like that. Which this is a whole religion of people who want to feel victimized, and frankly, a lot of people would argue that it's a cult. I don't know, but they are cultish. But
without a doubt,
when you're not allowed to have friends outside your religion, I call that a cult. But I don't know. You can't really define a cult. So, okay, let's see. December 4th, there was a volcano in Indonesia, in Java.
Okay.
It just erupted again.
Oh.
The first eruption had killed 46 people. It's not telling me how many people this one, if
Maybe
anyone,
they don't know
killed.
Yet.
Well, I mean, either they don't know yet, or everybody's still evacuated.
Yeah, it could be that there wasn't anybody there to kill that. Hopefully, that's what it is.
Hopefully, but so another eruption. Okay, remember the bouncy house that killed 5 kids?
Yeah, kind of flew away in the wind and killed some.
Yeah,
of the kids.
this was in Tasmania, Australia. One of the injured children died, so it's killed 6 now instead of 5.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. Okay. There's a monument called the Pillar of Shame at the University of Hong Kong. This was dedicated to the victims of the 1989 protests in China, the big massacre,
the Tiananmen Square.
Yeah. And they have taken that down.
Oh, of course they would.
Yeah,
China's
they removed it in the middle of the
memory
night. Yeah, so I don't know. That's another shame. There's a landowner and a earth-moving business each face 126 charges for the deaths of 70 koalas last year by clearing out a tree plantation in Australia.
That's so stupid.
Are koalas are they
protected?
Or?
Yeah, are they a protected species?
I mean,
if they're protected, that's one thing. But just to say, animals died, we're going to charge you, that's so stupid.
Maybe they are.
I didn't think they were. I mean, they're only, you only find them in Australia.
It's listed as threatened.
Okay.
All right.
I guess that's a step down from Indonesia. So maybe under Australian law.
But they didn't kill the koalas.
They didn't kill them directly. They just forced them to go somewhere else.
Yeah. And, they're saying 70 of them died. I don't... Okay, if 70 of them died just because they cleared out some woodland, I would say this species is on its way out no matter what.
No, I would say if 70 of them died just because... evolutionary, it's like, okay, they're stupid and they can't figure out to go somewhere else. Or they're so populated that when you clear out some woodland, 70 of them die, you don't need to have them on an endangered list.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I think of it.
That's a good point. Speaking of animals, Italy bans fur farming, and all the remaining mink farms have to shut down by 2022.
So all the minks are going to be killed.
Yeah. So I guess
we can't keep
get a great big bunch of minks.
We're going to have to kill you. Let's harvest the mink while we've got it.
Why brand fur farming and not meat farming? I mean...
I know. It's like...
We need to wear clothes. Well, you can wear cloth. Okay, well, you can eat veggies. It makes just as much sense. No, well, we want mink and leather, and we want to eat meat.
And we want fur. And that's so stupid that... And it's not like they're gathering up wild minks...
Yeah.
as like this is a farm. They're farming them for this purpose.
Yeah. Omicron variant causes Christmas flight cancellations and holiday travel headaches. This from United Airlines and Delta are canceling hundreds of flights because they're saying of the Omicron coronavirus variant.
Huh.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I think they have less workers because they're forcing them to get vaccinated.
And people are walking.
Yeah.
out. I think that's really what it is.
I think that's what's going on. But, oh well. George Floyd has been removed from the consideration for Texas pardon. I guess there's a tradition in Texas where they pardon people around Christmas, and there were like 20-something people on the list. George Floyd had been unanimously recommended for a posthumous pardon for a 2004 drug conviction
in Texas.
And Abbott, the Governor Abbott, had decided not to do that.
Good. I don't get it. Hey,
I'd say that would be dumb.
Oh boy, this guy went and got jacked up on other drugs and gave police a hard time and was trying to pass counterfeit bills and died because of the drugs that he was jacked up on. So let's pardon him. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Hold on. What? Oh, probably a heartbeat bill. I think he said some kind of abortion bill passed in Ohio. I didn't see that. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I know we've been trying to do a heartbeat bill for a while. I don't know. Maybe that passed. Fauci warns Americans not to invite unvaccinated relatives over for the holidays, even though vaccination doesn't keep anyone from getting anything. Fauci also discouraged vaccinated Americans from attending large gatherings. If you can't do that with the vaccination, then what's the point of having the vaccination?
Exactly. It's so stupid. This puts the lie on, exposes the lie of the motivation of these government agencies.
Yeah, every now and then, like when I find these stories, sometimes I'll scroll down and read the comments and the goofy discussions that happen afterwards. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating seeing how stupid people are about this. How detached they are from reality. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you really can't figure this out just from the two headlines by themselves. Just from that, what I've said so far should tell you everything you need to know about this. But no. Oh well. Apple workers group plans a walkout, urges customer boycott for Christmas Eve. Okay. So in September, the workers sent an open letter to Apple CEO Tim Cook with a bunch of requests, including the auditing of all promotions and performance reviews for gender, racial, disability, and heteronormative biases that may lead to wage gaps and a lack of opportunity and compensation within the company in each part of it.
That is so stupid.
It is stupid. At the same time, maybe it's about time that we point out that if you're gay, you get paid more nowadays.
That's true.
Or that you get fired less.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing.
It's a favored status
and
now.
Maybe it's time for white people to say, hey, no, I want a review of this.
Yeah.
Why is this idiot getting paid more than me when I do twice as much work as him?
That's a good point. Do the reviews and learn that, okay, wait a minute. White people aren't being treated fairly.
Yeah. Oh, well. That's all the news I got.
All right.
Except, I'm going at the end of this show, you will notice a different song, because remember the homeless singer, guitar player guy last week.
Oh yeah.
Well, I got a hold of him and I said, can I use what I recorded right there? Can I use it for the ending of our show?" And he said, "Yeah." I'm going to see how it sounds. I'm going to see how
awesome.
it does.
Yeah.
So it's not a professional recording, but to me it sounds kind of real and folksy.
You were using your cell phone or something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see how that works.
Okay. Nonsense news. All right. You know how like babies like to lick everything, and so you got to train them not to.
Yeah.
So in Japan, Japan always comes up with the goofiest stuff. An inventor in Japan developed a way of making it so that your TV could like have some kind of film that it rolls out on the screen, so you can lick the screen, I guess.
Wait a minute.
Taste food.
Like a scratch and sniff on the TV for taste?
For taste. You don't scratch it. At least I don't think you scratch it. You just lick it. But you're licking the TV screen.
That's gross.
It's stupid. It says he believes the technology could be used to give people who are unable or unwilling to travel the ability to sample flavors from around the world. Well, flavors, okay, but...
You don't have to...
You don't... Flavors are no good without the context of eating the food. You want the texture and the feel of it in your mouth and the smell of it. There's a whole lot more to a eating experience than the flavor that your tongue can pick up.
But how exactly does it give you the... Is this like some kind of... Do they fool your brain? Or do they actually put out something that tastes like something?
No, it says he uses a combination of 10 different flavors that are dispensed onto a film that slides onto the screen.
That's kind of weird. That's
very weird. That's why it's in my nonsense news.
Yeah, okay. Well, remember the Google odor search that they had for April Fool's Day?
I don't think I came across that. That's funny.
I was like, I thought it was a pretty good one because it was like introducing Google Scent
odor
or something like that, and it would. I can't even remember what they told you to do. It said search for this scent, and they told you to scratch it or to sniff it, and then you could. It was
decide
like
whether that was it or not.
I wonder how many people kept trying to make it work.
It would be so funny if going to the page also managed to turn on the webcam on their computer.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, yeah, scratch and sniff Google, scratch and taste TV.
TV, okay.
All right, now, so, before man tamed horses, I wonder if maybe he tamed millipedes? It says that scientists uncover a fossil of a giant millipede that was the size of a car. Can you imagine a millipede?
Of a giant millipede.
A millipede the size of a car waddling down your street.
That's just a big millipede.
Imagine that.
Yeah,
it's like get on top of that thing and ride it.
That's that's something that people made. That's something God did not intend.
Yeah, this is one of those things that
it's like, let's make this thing giant, and
right.
God's like, okay, enough of this. I didn't put this stuff here for you guys to fool with.
I'm wiping you guys all out.
These things are grotesque. I wonder what something like that would eat. I
know. What do millipedes eat? I mean,
I think they're not.
They are predators, though, right?
Yeah. Well, centipedes are. Okay. I don't know if millipedes are or not.
Yeah.
Well, it's a weird thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Next. So you remember when the whole mask thing was coming out, and we had our masks that, like, I had my mosquito net that I would put over my head.
Yeah.
Someone asked me to put a mask because they would say, "Well, the mask can be made of anything." And I remember like the CDC recommendation: mask can be made of anything. Just wear a mask.
Yeah.
Well, so a guy was kicked off of a flight for wearing a mask that was made out of ladies' panties.
They kicked him off?
They kicked him off, and this was... it was a flight from Fort Lauderdale to Washington. I'm trying to find out what airline it was.
But did they kick him off because he wouldn't put on another mask, or because he was wearing that mask?
Well, the flight attendant came up and in somebody's video, and maybe the video they have on the news site,
this is Delta.
You're going to have to come off the plane. We're not going to let you travel. He asks why, and the flight attendant says, "You're not in mask compliance." Well, then several other passengers, this is cool, got up to leave too.
That is cool.
One can be heard saying,
did he just
This
is United Airlines.
I'm out of here. Forget it. I'm out of here.
Yeah. This is United Airlines, but he says Delta had done the same thing.
Oh, okay.
But isn't this the same two airlines that... Hold on here.
United Airlines, yep. Mask should be able to fully cover the mouth and nose. Oh, because it was a thong, it couldn't cover his mouth and nose. He claims the underwear met that. Let's see. So I'm looking at the picture. Yeah, I would say that fully covers his mouth and nose.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yep, based on the picture.
But where is the story I had about the Omicron causing Christmas? United Airlines and Delta. Those are the two ones that have all the cancellations. Yeah. I don't think it has anything to do with the virus.
The workers
I think they're just
saying, I don't want the
leaking
vaccine.
Employees.
I'm going to go find another job.
Yeah, it would be hard working for either one of these companies. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'd have to be woke, and they want a company full of woke people, apparently, and just that's what it is.
Companies are going to start realizing that they'll get support from customers and loyalty from employees by explicitly being non-woke.
I don't know why more companies aren't. Because a lot of times you'll find local companies who reject wokeness, and they have no problems.
Yeah.
You know?
And I bet big companies would see a similar... you'd hear your big outcries, your protesters, but I think the fact that they're being protested, even more people would say, I'm going to support them.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Did you ever see a movie? This is kind of funny. So in Ohio, there was a school. I'm not quite sure I understand what the ESPN thing is, but apparently, so in Ohio, there's a classification of school that's highly unregulated, and somebody set up the school. Seems like they kind of just set it up in their house for kids to be able to apply to and attend, and I'm using air quotes with attend, but its main thing was to be able to allow them to play on a football team at the high school level, and give them access maybe to...
like a Montessori school, or...
No, not even...
Those aren't very regulated.
No, they're not very regulated, but Montessori are real schools.
Yeah.
This was just kind of a school, basically an opportunity
like a mailing address.
Play football, exactly. Well, you know what it reminds me of? Have you ever heard of the movie... the name of the movie is Accepted. And it's about a group of kids, like quasi, losers on one level, and they're kind of, playing their parents. Oh yeah, basically they didn't get accepted to any particular college, so they make up a college and like make up letterheads and that kind of stuff that they then, have acceptance letters mailed to themselves to show their parents
so they can
that we got accepted.
Think they're going to school.
Exactly, and they end up getting a school, like getting a building, cleaning it up, and turning it into a real school. But I mean, it's farcical the whole time. In fact, to give you an idea, the name of the school is the South Harmon Institute of Technology. Well, you can do the initials. South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Okay.
So it's that kind of a movie.
But these guys did that just so that they could play football.
It kind of reminded me of that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, except on a high school instead of a college level.
And they really... So a group did this so that they could play football.
Apparently, yeah.
High school. So I get... But, I mean, were these kids... Did they not go to school? Or were they just trying to create a cool football team that with certain players?
I can't quite
understand.
Get this. It still seems to be under investigation. The school
or maybe
itself,
it was like 30-year-old men who decided they wanted to play high school football.
I don't think they were. I think they were high school age students.
That would be funny. We'll all go start our own high school so that we can play sports against these other kids.
Well, it's like this.
Of course, they'd probably win against
past
us.
Year, even though they had people on their football team, it only listed one person as enrolled, and the address of the school is just a residence. I mean, it's weird.
Well, I know, like in a lot of here in Cincinnati, they've got schools all have their football teams, and then even the public schools have their football teams.
Right.
And then there's also a community school which has a football team. Not a community school. There's a community football team.
Oh, okay.
And
like a neighborhood might have one.
Right. So
you might have
if your
the Blue
kid
football team or something.
either doesn't make the football team, or if he's on the football team but he never gets any field time, they can go to this community football team and they'll let them play. You know, like they'll give them more field time even if they're not good players.
I didn't realize they had that in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's a thing. Or it might not even be in Cincinnati. It might just be in Harrison. Because this happened when I was in Harrison.
Right.
Harrison's a little city like right outside of Cincinnati. But the thing is, there were actually, by the time we left Harrison, there were 2 community football teams. One was a group of them who had started to get serious about football and they wanted to make the team better. The other one was just so that the kids could play football.
Yeah.
But this is high school football, and to me, that's just flat out dangerous. You're taking kids who aren't good at playing and putting them against people who are really serious about the game, and it's a good way to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
There's a reason certain kids weren't out on the field, and it wasn't just because they didn't play well. It's because they didn't know how to block, or they weren't aggressive, and chances are, if they put them in that field, they'd get hurt. You know?
That's true. Well, this story, like, I guess what prompted the investigation was, I don't know whether the team was like hyping itself up or something like that, but they went up like against a a Florida team or something like that, and and suffered a 58-0 loss
got hurt?
or something.
Oh, okay, got it.
Destroyed.
And it was like, you guys don't even know how to play football,
what are you doing? Yeah, and so parents, I guess that prompted, some kind of scrutiny that started looking into the academics as well and figured out that there are no academics.
It's not even a real school.
Yeah.
That's crazy. The things people will do to play sports.
Okay. Final thing, somebody on one of my wife's audiology groups posted a picture of a textbook. I don't know if it's a textbook. It's probably more like just a book about Beethoven. But it's a chapter book. Okay, it's a significant enough book to have chapters. Yeah. And so I don't know if I sent you the email of all of my links. I don't know if the picture came through as an attachment. It should have.
No, it didn't.
I'll have to find a way to send it to you. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. So, Chapter 8, Beethoven's Later Years. In the years after Napoleon's rise and fall as Emperor of France, Beethoven was in a flurry of musical writing. Being dead did not stop him in the slightest from recovering quickly and going on with his music. Sure, it was much harder, but he got through it.
Wow. It's amazing. what people can do when they're
Incredible.
dead.
Yeah.
I imagine it had to be a joke.
So I wonder how can I... Okay.
We should search for that text and see if it was just some joker. Of course, I can see that being taught in today's public schools. I mean, they're that bad.
That's right.
But also, here's the thing. Like, no matter what business you're in, there's at least especially if you're a business to consumer, if you're selling to consumers as opposed to business, there is, and you want your website to do well, or you want your company to gain some kind of recognition, the thing to do is to publish a book. Because it's so easy to do nowadays.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, okay, I got to write a book. And let's say a music store, local music store, they want more recognition, or they want to be in the newspaper or something. I'll write a book about classical music, or about Beethoven, or about whatever. Music in general, maybe. And a lot of times it's like the owner is like, I'm not going to sit down and write a book. So he hires these, quote, copywriters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And or ghostwriters. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times these ghostwriters and or copywriters are like people from India and China and Russia who will literally write an entire book for like $20.
Right.
And it's just the quality of writing is bad, and the information is just, they just pulled a bunch of crap from other websites and put it together in a book.
And you could tell,
maybe that's what this is.
From that excerpt that I read, it was a little bit childish. I mean, maybe it was targeted at children. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, as for the typo itself, okay, the F and the D key are right next to each other, so that's probably where that came from. But, you know, the proofreaders missed it. If they used a proofreader.
I don't know. It's weird. But everybody's passing a picture of this page.
But nobody's saying what book it's from.
Maybe somebody just like made it, you know.
I was going to say, is it photoshopped possibly?
Or just, I mean, I could print that out and make it look like a book real easy.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. Weird. But you never know. With today's schools, I would not doubt it.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. If I can find the book, I'll let everybody know. So the sales of the book will skyrocket as people start.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's
That's all I've
becoming
got.
a meme, apparently. That's all you got?
That is everything.
Well, let's see. We got... I'm going to try... I didn't do a whole lot of research here. I'm going to try to muddle through this, just because I hate not having a saint to talk about. But in the Mass, in the Tridentine Mass, you'll notice, we pray to Saint Marcellinus. And we also, at the same time, say Peter. The Peter, I've always just associated that with Saint Peter, our first pope. But apparently, no. There's someone else named Peter that we're praying to at that time. Because Saint Marcellinus and Peter the Exorcist were apparently martyred around the same time. So that's why they're listed kind of together. I think are they actually listed together?
In the
I can't remember now. Daggone it, I had an article up that showed it, and now I've lost it. Dun, dun, dun,
it looks like
dun.
they died.
Oh,
together.
here we are. Yeah, okay. Marcellinus and Peter, are listed together. And they are talking about Marcellinus, a pope, and Peter the Exorcist. This was during the 300s. We're back to the Diocletian martyrs. Marcellinus was pope. Around the year 600 AD, and he had died in 302. Around the year 600 AD, there was printed up these fake documents claiming that Marcellinus had been a prisoner of Diocletian, and he had been told he had to sacrifice to their gods, and he had obeyed them and denounced the Christian faith. This is while he was Pope, and also that he had given the sacred books to the emperor, and they had burned them. We know that that was fake, the documents claiming this. But there is some question of whether or not that really did happen. Now, St. Augustine denies that it happened, says no, it didn't happen. But other people do point out the fact that after St. Marcellinus died, that there was like a 3-year period where we had no pope. And it could be because of the fight involving that, the fact that he had denied the Catholic faith and then turned around and repented of it and then was eventually martyred. But most people are saying even that is not true. Although, but you do find that report in places like Wikipedia, who say that, Marcellinus in the year 302 denied the faith and then turned around and embraced the faith again and was executed for it. But anyway, St. Peter the Exorcist and Marcellinus were executed together, according to legend. Peter was caught exorcising, and he was thrown into prison. While in prison, the guard's daughter was possessed, I guess, and he brought his daughter to Peter, and Peter exorcised the demon. The guard, the daughter, and the guard's wife were all converted. The governor there heard about all this and wanted to have them all executed. And also somehow Marcellinus who was the Pope, gets lumped into this because he was the one who had baptized all these people. See, Peter was an exorcist. That was part of the baptism rite. It still is.
Yeah.
But there was a special order of people who did the exorcisms. Just like, as you were saying, there was a special order of people who served Mass.
Right.
So
right.
Peter,
Exorcist used to be one of the minor orders that you went through on your way to being a deacon.
Right. So the jailer and his wife and the child who had been exorcised wanted to be baptized, and Marcellinus is the one who did it. And when the governor, I don't know if it was the governor or Diocletian himself, heard about this, said, "I want you all to." He wanted them all executed, but he didn't want the execution to be a place where other Christians would revere.
Right.
He wanted it to be kept a secret where they were exercised because he didn't want another church to pop up. That was happening a lot.
Yeah.
They would kill someone. The next day, there's a church.
Yeah.
So he had told the executioner to take them into the woods to a quiet spot and execute them. So they go into the woods, and then the jailer tells them, or the executioner tells them why they're here, and they gladly clear out the area so that they can be exorcised. And then I guess they dig a hole as well. He executes them and leaves them there. Somebody finds the remains and brings them back and builds. Later on, the church goes up. And this is who St. Peter and St. Marcellinus are that we mention in the Tridentine Mass.
So, and that makes sense because St. Marcellinus is it's kind of funny because St. Marcellinus, it's kind of weird because if he was a pope, you'd think it would say Pope St. Marcellinus or St. Marcellinus Pope, but the page I'm reading says St. Marcellinus Priest, and St. Peter, exorcist. So what if this same system was in place in 304, which I don't know that it was or that it wasn't, but what that would mean is that St. Peter had achieved the minor order of exorcist, and he was probably on his way to becoming a priest, but had not become one yet when he was martyred.
Yeah. But I
why
still
does it
see
say
here
Saint
Pope
Marcellinus
Marcellinus
priest
is in 304.
Mm-hmm. Which,
wait a minute. Yeah. I don't know. I see some accounts of him as Pope and some accounts as him as priest.
just a priest. That's weird.
And both secular and Catholic sites are saying both of these things. But when we go to Catholic Encyclopedia, he is Pope Marcellinus. And he died in 304, which is...
Yeah, the same year that Marcellinus
Saint
and
Marcellinus died.
I wonder if there were two Marcellinuses then. Because, like,
well,
EWTN just refers to him as a priest.
There is later a reference to Marcellini. That was in those forged documents. And I think there's also a Marcellini, and they're saying maybe while they were copying the liturgy that there was a problem with the manuscript. Somebody copied it wrong.
Oh, okay.
Or there's also a Marcellus, Marcellus, listed in the Book of Martyrs. And they're thinking maybe that was the problem. But Catholic Encyclopedia lists him as Pope Saint Marcellinus.
Okay. And so, that Pope Saint Marcellinus is the one associated with Peter.
Yes.
The exorcist. Okay. That's weird that there's such a disparity of reporting on that. That some just say... Because you'd think they'd say he was a pope everywhere.
Right. And it's I don't know. It says something about the age of this Mass that we're reading every Sunday. If
That's
you go to
true,
a proper Mass.
that he's in there, yeah.
And that it's been centuries, and we're still reading his name, and yet we even question who this person is. But we're still reading his name, which is illustrates how long we've been saying this Mass, and shows how, as you said, diabolical it is that there's a group of people trying to get rid of it. It's insane. His name did not occur in either the list of martyrs or the bishops in the Roman chronograph in the year 354.
That's why I'm wondering if there were two Marcellinuses.
Episcopus. There was a Marcellinus Episcopus.
I
guess that was
the New Advent one says that he was elected to the papacy in 296, died in 304, probably of natural causes. So I think Saint Marcellinus with Peter is not the same as Pope Marcellinus.
Mm-hmm. That could be.
I do see in popehistory.com that he is one of the only men to use his personal name as Pope. So a lot of popes will adopt a name.
Yeah.
Peter was kind of given his name by Jesus. His personal name would have been Simon.
Right.
I don't know about any of the others since then, but apparently Marcellinus, that was his actual name.
Well,
okay.
I think the only thing we can say for sure is that we don't positively, absolutely know who Peter and Marcellinus are, but that they come from a long tradition in a prayer that we have been saying for hundreds of years and ought not to be just discarded.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, they were probably in the Mass by 400, and gosh, that's 1,600 years.
That's a long dang time to be saying some guy's name to where we don't even know who he is. And we've got mosaics of these people back in the 12th century, just throw it all away. It seems so stupid.
Yeah.
It's senseless. I hate to say this. It's like the reckless disregard for life that the Nazis had. And I'm not trying to compare the Pope to the Nazis. I'm just saying it's so weird that a group of people could so flippantly disregard something so precious.
Yeah.
And I don't see how you could see this as anything but satanic. Mm-hmm. But we're going to keep praying.
Yep.
And you know what? Hopefully I'm wrong.
We'll see.
And
eventually we'll see.
Okay, St. Peter's and Marcellinus.
Pray for us.
And we're going to say goodbye now. So think about what we said. And as always,
circle the beads.
And we'll see you next week. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
And Happy New Year.
Yep. All right. Bye.
I got this morning.